Good morning. May I ask that you take your seats, please? Let's get started. Good morning to everyone. Please take your seats. Dr. Amir Hamidi, Chair of the Animals Committee, members of the Animals Committee, distinguished delegates and participants, dear colleagues and friends. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 34th meeting of the CITES Animals Committee. As usual, our warm thanks to Switzerland for their generous and continued support in hosting us here at the Geneva International Conference Center. I also wish to thank the Russian Federation for providing Russia interpretation for this meeting. I would like to begin by congratulating Dr. Amir Hamidi from Indonesia on his election as chair of the Animals Committee and, notably, as the first chair from the Asia region in the committee's history. May I ask you to confirm his election by acclamation for the record. As a renowned herpetologist, Dr. Hamidi has brought substantial scientific expertise and commitment to the work of the Animals Committee since his election as a member at COP19 in Panama in 2022. I have every confidence that his leadership will strengthen the committee's work ahead and that he will chair its proceedings with fairness, sound judgment, a steady hand, and respect for all participants. Congratulations, Chair. I would also like to warmly welcome and congratulate Dr. Thomas Luderitz from the United States of America region and is representing the North America region as the newly elected Vice Chair. My congratulations and welcome also to our new committee members, the re-elected nomenclature specialist and our first alternate nomenclature specialist and our first alternate nomenclature specialist for fauna. I take this opportunity to recall that the functions of the Animals Committee are set out in the resolution and include providing scientific advice and guidance to the Conference of the Parties, the other committees, the Secretariat and parties on matters relevant to international trade in animal and plant species included in the appendices, and undertaking the tasks which are directed to the Animals Committee by the Conference of the Parties through relevant resolutions or decisions. To all AC members, as always, thank you for generously volunteering your advice, expertise, and time to fulfill the objectives of this convention, despite financial, logistical, or workload challenges. Nearly 500 participants have registered to attend this meeting, including 73 governments and 79 observer organizations. This is the first meeting of the CITES Animals Committee after COP20 in Samarkand last year, which adopted 76 new species listings, 3 new resolutions, and over 350 decisions. These present yet another ambitious program of work entrusted to the committees. AC 34 will undertake species-specific reviews, assess the impacts of trade on wild populations, and provide guidance for CITES implementation. You will determine priorities for the committee's core mandate and select species for the next cycle of the review of significant trade and for the review of trade in animal specimens reported as produced in captivity. This will shape the committee's intersessional workload and direct expertise to the areas of greatest conservation concern. Among the 50 agenda items before you are cross-cutting issues such as non-detriment findings and marking of live specimens. On aquatic species, you will discuss corals, nomenclatural and conversion factors, which continue to pose complex implementation challenges. You will examine progress in implementing sharks and ray listings and prepare for a technical workshop on the newly listed deepwater sharks, including the 16 Centrophoridae species listed at COP20, which enter into effect in June 2027. On terrestrial species, discussions will include African lions and how recent studies will inform the work of the joint CMS-CITES African Carnivores Initiative. You will consider quotas for Appendix 1 species and determine when a review of these quotas should be initiated. For saiga antelope, you will examine trade trends and information shared by parties, including on stockpiles of saiga horns. As we all adapt to limited financial and human resources, the committee will need to consider where additional data, capacity building, or international cooperation is most urgently needed and will have the greatest impact. Prioritization will be key to our success. Ladies and gentlemen, as we move towards 2030, let us continue bringing the spirit of scientific rigor, collaboration, and problem-solving that has long characterized the committee's work and now advances our shared international goals for wildlife conservation. In doing so, you will support parties with the tools and knowledge to achieve the CITES strategic vision and more effectively ensure international wildlife trade is legal, sustainable, and traceable. Thank you once more to the committee members, parties, and observer organizations who have invested so much in preparing for this meeting. And of course, as always, my deepest gratitude to my wonderful team who have worked intensely to service this meeting. I wish you a successful meeting. Once again, my warmest congratulations to you, Chair, on your election, and it is my pleasure to hand the floor over to you. Thank you.
Distinguished Secretariat General, distinguished member of the Animal Committee, representative parties, observers, colleagues from the Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to the 434th meeting of the CITES Animal Committee. It is both an honor and privilege to chair to this meeting as newly elected chair of the Animal Committee. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude for the confidence of you have placed in me. I look forward to working closely with all of you over the coming days in the spirit of cooperation, mutual respect, and shared commitment to the objective of the convention. I also wish to convey my heartfelt appreciation to my predecessor, Mr. Matthias Locher, whose leadership and dedication have guided the committee's important scientific work for nearly a decade. I look forward to building upon the strong foundation together with the new Vice Chair, Mr. Lauterich, the committee's members, Secretariat, and all participants. I would also like to thank Government of Switzerland for its support in hosting this meeting here at the CICG in Geneva. We have before us an ambitious and demanding agenda. Throughout this meeting, we will consider a wide range of scientific, technical, and implementation matters that are central to the effective implementation of the CITES. Many of these agenda items involve complex conservation and trade challenges, require carefully scientific deliberations, and may lead recommendations to the standing committee or to establishment of new intersessional working group. As reflected in the relevant conference of the parties' resolutions, the Animal Committee plays a vital scientific and technical advisory role in supporting the implementation of the convention. The Secretary General has already highlighted the term of reference of the Animal Committee as set out in Annex 2 of Resolution COV 18.2 Rev COV 20 on the establishment of the committee. With the number of new members joining us, I would like to emphasize that it is important that we keep within our given mandate as a scientific committee, and that the committee's conclusion and recommendation are ultimately for each member to consider, deliberate upon, and agree collectively during the course of this meeting. The breadth of our agenda reflects the confidence that the conference of the party placed in the scientific expertise of the committee. At the same time, it underscores an important reality that we must acknowledge. The committee's workload continues to grow with each meeting, while the time available during our sessions, the resources available to support our work, and the capacity of the member and the secretariat to undertake intersessional activities remain limited. As a scientist and technical expert, many of us already balance these responsibilities with demanding professional commitment in our own institution and countries. It is therefore increasingly important that we use our time strategically and remain mindful in setting priorities. We should focus our collective effort on those activities where the committee can provide greater scientific value and where our advice can have the greatest impact on the effective implementation of the convention. As we consider proposals of few tasks or additional working group, I encourage us to reflect carefully on our existing commitment, available expertise and capacity, and on whether we possess the resources needed to achieve meaningful outcomes. It is not about doing less, rather it is about ensuring that we carry out our work well, efficiently, and in a manner that enable us to fulfill our mandate effectively. Our program is full and our time together is limited. I therefore invite everyone to work with me to ensure that we make the best possible use of our time available, and I encourage all speakers to keep their own intervention concise, focused, and directly relevant to the agenda item under the sessions. Clear and succinct intervention will enable us to hear from as many as committee's members, parties, and observers as possible while ensuring that all perspectives are duly considered. I would also kindly ask participants to avoid repeating points that have already been made, unless there is genuinely new information or a distinct perspective to contribute. This will help us maintain an efficient and constructive dialogue throughout this meeting. As chair, I will do my utmost to guide our discussion fairly and efficiently while adhering as closely as possible to the adopted program of the work. Your cooperation will be essential, helping us remain on schedule and complete our extensive agenda. Although we have a significant workload ahead of us, I am confident that the expertise, professionalism, and collaborative spirit represented in this room will enable us to achieve meaningful outcomes that strengthen the scientific base for the implementation of the Convention and support the conservation and sustainable use of CITES listed species. Finally, I thank you in advance for your constructive participation, flexibility, and commitment over the coming days. I would also like to express my special appreciation to the Science Unit of the Secretariat for its guidance and support in preparing for this meeting of the Animal Committee. I look forward to a productive and successful meeting. Thank you all. With this opening remark, let us now to proceed the first agenda item. Okay, agenda item 2, declaration of interest. I would like to give the floor to the Secretariat, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Secretariat has received standard disclosure forms for declarations of interest from all members and acting members of the Animals Committee. One member drew attention to employed work that he has done related to the conservation of tortoises. However, the Secretariat considers that this is not a financial interest that calls into question his impartiality, objectivity, or independence regarding any subject on the agenda for the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The Animal Committee notes that no member has declared a financial interest that he or she considers calls into question his or her impartiality, objectivity, or independence regarding any subject of the agenda for the meeting. Next agenda, rule of procedure. The rule of procedure of the Animal Committee as amended at the 13th meeting, Geneva, July 2018, are annexed to the document AC 34.3. In accordance with Rule 21, the rule remains valid for each meeting of the committee unless amended by the decision of the committee. No proposal for amending the rules have been submitted at the present meeting. I therefore invite the committee to note the rule of the procedure. Okay. Right. Okay, go to agenda 4. The proposed agenda is contained document 34.4. The Animal Committee is invited to adopt the agenda. I will open the floor for comment. First, I will give the floor to the members. For the floor. Okay. Silent disagreement. Next, I will give the floor to the observer parties. Thank you. Next, I will give the floor to the observer organizations. Thank you. Concerning agenda item 4.1, agenda item 4, I conclude the Animal Committee has adopted the agenda document AC 34.4. Thank you. Agenda 5. The Animal Committee is now invited to adopt the working program, which can be found in the document 34.5. I will open the floor, the comment for members. Okay, silent agreement. Okay. Next, I give the floor to the observer parties. Thank you. Next, I give the floor to the observer organization. Thank you. Concerning agenda item 4, I conclude that the Animal Committee has adopted the agenda document AC 34.4.
It's 5, actually. Sorry, that's a mistake. It's 5.
I'm sorry. I repeat again. Concerning agenda 5,
Yeah, 5.
concerning agenda 5, I conclude the Animal Committee has adopted agenda in the document AC 34.5. Thank you. Next agenda, agenda 6, admission of observers. The list of observer organizations that have requests to participate in the meeting in accordance with the Rule 4, Paragraph 2 of the Rule of the Procedure of the Animal Committee is presented in the document AC 34.6. I invite the committee to note the list of the observer.
Just say it's noted.
Okay, so next agenda is agenda 7. AC strategic planning for 2026 to 2028. Pasca COP 20 to COP 2021. Resolution decision directed to the Animal Committee. The document AC 7.1 consists of two annexes. Annex 1 provides an overview of the currently valid resolutions that require action from or contain reference to the Animal Committee. Annex 2 lists of all currently valid decisions of the COP directed to the Animal Committee or that may require consultation with or assistance from the committee. The Animal Committee is invited to note the document. I will open the floor for comment, first for the members. Again, silent is agreement. Next, I give the floor to the observer parties. Then I give the floor for the observer organizations. Okay. Concerning agenda. Okay. CMS, please. I give the floor to the CMS.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding Conf 30.4, Ref COP 18, conservation of conservation of and trade in great apes, the CMS Secretariat wishes to inform the committee that the 5th meeting of the parties to the Gorilla Agreement, MOP 5, will be held on 10 to 11 September this year in Yaoundé, Cameroon. The meeting will take place back-to-back with the Congress of the African Primatological Society. At MOP 5, parties will review the implementation of the program of work and resolutions adopted at MOP 4. In this context, we would like to note Resolution 4.1 of the Gorilla Agreement, paragraphs 11 and 12, which, and I quote, encourages parties to collaborate with accredited rescue centers and sanctuaries and other conservation partners whenever possible in the care, rehabilitation, and rewilding of confiscated live gorillas following IUCN guidelines, and encourages parties to submit information on illegal trade in great apes and great ape body parts to the Grasp Ape Seizure Database. We also welcome the collaboration between CITES and Grasp and note that the CMS Secretariat is a member of the Grasp Executive Committee and that the Grasp Scientific Commission serves as the technical committee to the Gorilla Agreement, providing scientific and technical support to its implementation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CMS, for the information. No comment from members. Concerning agenda item 7.1, I conclude the Animal Committee note the document AC34 Doc 7.1. Seeing no objections, it is agreed the agenda item is closed, and note the information provided by the CMS. Thank you. Agenda item 7.2, the Animal Committee Work Plan. Document SG34 Doc 7.2 outline the list of instructions directed to the Animal Committee or that may require that it be consulted or informed that can be found in the currently valid resolution and decision of the Conference of the Parties. The annex of the document identifies the lead or co-lead from the members and alternate members of the committee for each of the instruction as part of its work plan in 2026-2028. The Animal Committee is invited to note this document and agree that in the event of the Standing Committee establishing additional intersessional working group, the lead or co-lead identified for the relevant resolution or decision in the current work plan would represent the Animal Committee on the working group concerned. I will now open the floor and comment. First, I give the floor to the member. Okay, silent agreement again. I give the floor to the observer parties. Okay, thank you. Then I give the floor to the observer organization. Thank you. Concerning agenda item 7.2, I conclude the Animal Committee note document SC34 Doc 7.2. Saying no objection, it is agreed and this agenda item is closed. Now we come to the one of the favorite agenda. Agenda 14, captive breeding and range specimen. I would like to invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, committee members and delegates.
So we start with document 14.1, which is by the Secretariat and concerns the review of trade in animal specimens reported as produced in captivity. And this document is divided into two sections. The first section, paragraphs 3 to 15, updates the committee on the status of the review of trade in animal specimens reported as produced in captivity. It highlights recommendations that were made at the 33rd meeting of the Animals Committee, the 78th meeting of the Standing Committee, and the 79th meeting of the Standing Committee to remove species country combinations from the review, as well as any conditions attached, such as quotas, and any recommendations to suspend trade that were agreed by the Standing Committee. An overview of the 44 cases of species country combinations that have been selected for review during the two iterations to date is presented in two tables in Annex 1. In addition, a table of the 6 current ongoing cases, arranged alphabetically by party, is presented in Annex 2 to this document. In the second section, so paragraphs 16 to 18, the Secretariat reports that it had requested updates by the 31st of March 2026 on actions taken by parties for the 6 remaining cases found in Annex 2. Only one response was received, which was from Mali, concerning Centrocella sulcata. A copy of the letter from Mali is included in Annex 3 in the language and format as received. Noting that Benin and Mali are already subject to a recommendation to suspend trade in Centrocella sulcata under this review process, the Secretariat informs that it will also propose a recommendation to suspend trade in the following species country combinations at the 81st meeting of the Standing Committee in the absence of any updates from the parties concerned. So this concerns Centrocella sulcata from Togo, Testudo graeca from Jordan, and Testudo kleimani from Egypt and the Syrian Arab Republic. Concerning decision 20.152, the Secretariat informs that it has secured some funding to initiate the development of a captive production tracking and management database, similar to the tracking and management database developed for the review of significant trade process. We will continue to explore further funding opportunities with donors to support the further development of the captive breeding database and pilot testing. And the Secretariat will report on progress with the development of the database at the next meeting of the Animals Committee. So the committee is invited to consider the recommendations concerning the remaining 6 cases that are subject to review, as set out in subparagraphs A to F of paragraph 20. At this point, the Secretariat would like to highlight 2 editorial changes to these recommendations that don't actually change the recommendations, but just are for ease of reading. So in subparagraph D, concerning Testudo graeca from Jordan, a recommendation, Roman numeral 3, should read, request Jordan to submit a non-detriment finding for the specimens of wild origin and for the founder stock of captive bred specimens, and we want to insert of Testudo graeca, that it is breeding, and delete the reference to Testudo graeca that follows. So we're basically moving the Testudo graeca to an earlier part of the sentence. So in line with Resolution Conf 1016 on specimens of animal species bred in captivity for consideration by the Secretariat and the Chair of the Animals Committee. And we propose the same change should be applied to subparagraph E concerning Testudo kleimani from Egypt. So it would read, request Egypt to submit a non-detriment finding for the specimens of wild origin and for the founder stock of captive bred specimens, insert of Testudo kleimani, that it is breeding in line with Resolution Conf 1016, Rev Cop 19, on specimens of animal species bred in captivity for consideration by the Secretariat and the Chair of the Animals Committee. So with those 2 editorial changes, that completes this introduction. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Secretariat. I open the floor first to the members for the comment. For the recommendation. Okay, please, European Union.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And as this is the first time I take the floor, I would like to thank the Secretariat for its excellent preparations and organization, and also Switzerland for hosting this meeting. I would also like to congratulate you, Amir, on your appointment as a chair, and assure you our full support, and I wish you every success in steering the committee through all these challenging tasks. And with this, I also would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing this extensive document, and just to confirm that I would agree with your recommendations on the species country combinations with the amendments that were just made on the floor. And I would also like to support the ongoing work towards a captive breeding tracking tool, which would be very useful for the committee to deal with all these cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Yo. Any members? Okay, Africa, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je remercie la Suisse et le secrétariat pour la bonne organisation de ce comité pour les animaux. Je voudrais intervenir pour le Mali, qui a envoyé une lettre au secrétariat et à nous-mêmes pour appuyer ce qu'ils sont en train de faire par rapport à Saint-Troquelis. Le Mali a déjà recruté un consultant pour approfondir un peu toutes les activités qui sont listées dans la lettre envoyée au secrétariat. Et je pense que tout à l'heure, la personne est dans la salle, il pourra intervenir et approfondir un peu ce qu'il compte faire avec le Mali dans le cadre de ces activités de consultation. Merci.
Thank you, Africa. Any other members? Okay, I'll give the floor next to the observer parties. In my list, Togo, please.
Ok, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, je voudrais joindre ma voix aux collègues qui sont exprimés en félicitant le secrétariat et le gouvernement de la Suisse pour la bonne organisation de cette session. Je voudrais aussi remercier le collègue de la région Afrique qui vient d'intervenir, et je voudrais remercier tous les participants et la convivialité avec laquelle cette session s'organise. Pour ce qui concerne le Togo et le Mali, je parlerai d'abord du Togo. En ce qui concerne Saint-Troquelis sur le Qatar, nous avons en 2024 soumis au secrétariat un avis du commerce non préjudiciable qui indique clairement que les spécimens du Togo sont des spécimens qui sont nés en captivité. J'ai eu moi-même à conduire une évaluation au niveau national et à travailler avec l'organe de gestion CITES et l'ensemble des fermes d'élevage qui sont impliquées dans cet élevage. Je voudrais rassurer le secrétariat et le comité que les spécimens du Togo, en ce qui concerne Saint-Troquelis sur Qatar, sont des spécimens qui sont nés en captivité. Pour ce qui concerne le Mali, j'ai eu l'opportunité de travailler pendant une semaine au Mali. J'étais même dans la région, qui sont des régions difficiles d'accès, à Ségou, à Sévaré et à Bamako. J'ai pu remarquer qu'au Mali, il y a beaucoup de fermes qui produisent des spécimens de Saint-Troquelis sur Qatar en captivité. La production du Mali, c'est vraiment des spécimens qui sont nés en captivité. Il y a plusieurs fermes qui sont impliquées dans ce travail. Je suis en train d'écrire le rapport. Malheureusement, je n'ai pas pu finir le rapport qui pourrait être soumis pour cette évaluation, mais d'ici 1 ou 2 mois, le rapport sera disponible. Et je voudrais vous rassurer que beaucoup de fermes au Mali travaillent et que les spécimens qui sont nés et qui sont exportés à partir du Mali sont des spécimens qui sont nés en captivité. Et puis, il y a vraiment des spécimens qui ont été produits et que les fermes n'arrivent pas à exporter compte tenu de la complexité de la situation sécuritaire, mais du fait que l'organe de gestion du Mali et l'autorité scientifique du Mali n'arrivent pas à répondre de façon effective aux préoccupations qui sont issues des différentes sessions et même de la COP. Et donc c'est cette incompréhension qui fait qu'il y a cette suspension de ces spécimens du Mali dans le commerce international. Je vous remercie. S'il y a des éléments, je peux encore apporter d'autres éléments.
Okay, Mali. Okay, Togo, thank you. Next, I give the floor to the observer parties, USA, please.
Hello. Thank you to the chair for recognizing the United States. Deputy Assistant Secretary Chatfield, representing the United States Department of the Interior. I would like to share the U.S. position. Overarching position for us is that the Animals Committee should prioritize science-based, non-detriment findings that enable legal trade where populations are stable and well-managed. We would oppose incorporating any unrelated issues, such as climate, expansive, sustainable development, beyond trade sustainability, etc. The Trump administration supports decisions that advance the United States economic security, agricultural interests, and legal wildlife industries while targeting illegal trafficking that funds crime and transnational criminal organizations. Additionally, we will support efforts that help range states implement effective permitting and monitoring for legal trade, reducing burdens on conservation, and deferring to range states to manage their natural resources. We will oppose vague or overly bureaucratic processes that delay or block legitimate trade without clear, objective criteria and measurable conservation benefits. Legal trade, when sustainable, provides incentives for conservation and for economic growth. Specifically to this item, I would like to offer that we support well-verified captive breeding and ranching operations as legitimate conservation and rural livelihood tools under Resolution Conference 17.7 as revised at COP19. We strongly encourage all parties to honor and respect verification by other parties to CITES. And we also support case-by-case, evidence-based review of specifically documented and investigated problem operations or countries rather than a blanket presumption that captive-sourced trade is inherently suspect. Any review should target actual laundering risk, not penalize compliant producers. And I thank you so much to the chair for allowing our positions to be stated.
Thank you, USA. Next, I give the floor to the Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia just wanted to note that we're currently testing a traceability tool, and we welcome other CITES parties to log on and assist with testing the tool. Australia is also open to presenting on the use of the traceability tool to any interested parties. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Next, I give the floor to the UK.
Thank you, Chair. We just wanted to congratulate you on your appointment, Chair. And also, the UK supports all of the Secretariat's recommendations as outlined in paragraph 20A to F of this document, as well as the editorial amendments being proposed here. We also welcome the update provided by Togo. And we were pleased to learn that Mali are in the process of strengthening their scientific and institutional capacity in order to address concerns raised in relation to species under this process, and also the review of significant trade, as indicated in a letter to the Secretariat included in Annex 3 of this document, and we look forward to a future update. We're also pleased to note that some funding has been secured to initiate the development of a tracking and management database similar to that that we already have available to support the review of significant trade. This is something that we feel is essential to support the implementation of this process and to ensure transparency. And we look forward to a progress report, and hopefully you'll receive the funding and opportunity to pilot such a system in due course. We also welcome the offer from Australia regarding finding out more details about their traceability system. So, thank you.
Thank you, UK. Next, I give the floor to the Senegal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais tout d'abord prendre la parole pour la première fois, remercier le secrétariat pour les efforts au bout desquels ils sont parvenus à organiser cette session. Remercier, Monsieur le Président, vous personnellement pour votre nomination à la présidence de ce comité et vous souhaiter tout le succès parce que je suis un ancien de la CITES, je sais ce que cela dit, comme effort qui vous attend. C'est pas facile, mais je vous souhaite vraiment plein succès dans votre magistère. Et par rapport au point sur le Mali, je dis que je m'associe à ce qu'a dit les États-Unis parce qu'il faut qu'on travaille de façon à avoir la traçabilité pour une meilleure sécurité dans ce que nous faisons. Et quant à l'Australie, nous sommes très pressés de découvrir et de taquiner cet outil, s'il peut nous permettre de faire de la traçabilité dans la gestion de nos stocks. Et voilà ce que je voulais dire par rapport à ce point qui est très intéressant. Le Mali est un pays voisin du Sénégal, donc s'il n'y a pas de traçabilité, s'il n'y a pas de gestion correcte, il se pourrait que le Sénégal soit affecté. C'est dans ce sens que nous nous inscrivons dans cette volonté d'encourager le Mali. Merci.
Thank you, Mali. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Senegal.
Thank you.
Any comments from parties? Okay, next I give the floor to the observer organizations. Center for Biodiversity.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the Secretariat in Switzerland, and congratulations to all the new members of Animals Committee. This intervention is on behalf of 7 observer organizations. We thank the Secretariat for this report and for the committee's continued engagement on these issues. As this review evidences, serious issues are being identified through this process, from the laundering of wild specimens, to the misunderstanding and varied application of source codes, to the lack of transparency and documentation of the origins of breeding and founder stock, and how such animals were acquired. We commend the work being undertaken to address these issues. We support the recommendations in the document requiring reporting from 4 countries by 4 of August, and the suggestion for standing committee that they recommend the suspension of trade if adequate reports are not received by the Secretariat. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Center for Biological Diversity. Okay, I know no request for comment. Committee? Silence agreement? Thank you for patience. Okay. The committee agrees to the recommendation as set out in the paragraph 20 of the document AC 34-14.1 with the editorial amendment made by the Secretariat. Note the update from Togo and invite them to submit the report by 4 August. Okay. And note the comments made by I'm sorry, I will repeat again. The committee agrees to the recommendation as set out in the paragraph 20, document AC 34-14.1 with the editorial amendment made by the Secretariat. Note the update from Togo and invite them to submit a report by 4 August and note the comments made during the discussion. I think that's good. Okay. Noting is agreement. Thank you. I notice Mexico asks the floor. Please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Solo una precisión en que se toma nota del informe de Togo, pero Togo, entiendo, estuvo hablando también a nombre de Mali, con su reporte sobre Mali y sobre Togo. Es importante que se mencione. Gracias. Y felicidades. Le deseo lo mejor, señor presidente.
Thank you, Mexico. We noted and added the information. By that, I close the agenda 14.1.1. Next, we move to agenda 41.14.2. Yeah. I invite the Secretary to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. Document AC34, Doc 14.2, was prepared by the Secretariat and presents the trade analysis produced by EvgeniyQW CMC. It was produced in accordance to paragraph 2A of Resolution Conf 17.7 Rev Cop 19 on review of trade in animal specimens reported as produced in captivity, and with thanks to funding from Switzerland. The analysis can be found in Annex 1 to the document, while the full summary of trade data upon which it is based is presented in Information Document 2. The Secretariat would like to draw the Committee's attention to Information Document 5, which highlights a small number of changes to the status of relevant species within the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species since the production of the analysis in Annex 1 of Document AC34, Doc 14.2, and it outlines some minor corrections to the Red List date of assessment in the AC outputs. So coming back to the document, paragraphs 5 to 10 of document AC34, Doc 14.2, outline the selection process to be followed at the present meeting, while paragraphs 11 and 12 outline the next steps following this meeting. In accordance with paragraph C of Resolution Conf 17.7 Rev Cop 20, the Animals Committee is now invited to select a limited number of species country combinations for review, taking into account the biology of the species, for which it should draft general or specific questions and a brief explanation for the selection to be addressed by the Secretariat to the parties concerned in accordance with Stage 2, subparagraph 2G. In drafting these questions, the Committee may wish to consider the questions in Annex 2 to the present document. In paragraph 7, it is noted that at COP20, the parties agreed to amend paragraph 2H of Resolution Conf 17.7 with the addition of the text as well as on the conservation status and threats to the species in the respective countries of origin of the founder stock. It is the Secretariat's understanding that this amendment would involve inclusion of information from the IUCN Red List assessment, so for example, status, trends, and threats from trade, but it may also include information on national conservation status and specific threats in the respective country or countries from which the breeding stock was obtained. And the Secretariat would appreciate the views of the Committee if its interpretation is correct or if additional information is required. And furthermore, as outlined in paragraph 10, in the absence of a comprehensive data set relating to taxa that are difficult to breed, the Secretariat would also appreciate any advice on the ways to improve the implementation of criterion Roman numeral 7, which is related to difficult to breed taxa in the future. So, for example, some suggested approaches could include convening expert working groups, liaising with specialist groups, or the distribution of questionnaires. So we are open to the advice of the committee. And finally, the committee is invited to consider the recommendations in subparagraphs A to E in paragraph 13. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. I would now like to open the floor for a few short interventions, noting that I propose to form an institutional working group on captive breedings. I would appreciate if you could keep your comment to those of a more general nature and perhaps focus on the attention to the paragraph B and E of the recommendation in paragraph 13, which I hope we will not have to include in the working group mandate. Please refrain from the discussion individual species country combination until the working group. Now I invite the members, comments from the members. European, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks a lot for the Secretariat for preparing the document and full support of having an in-session working group. Firstly, I would like to comment on recommendation little b by supporting the Secretariat's interpretation on the amendment of paragraph 2H of Resolution Conf 17.7. The intention of the amendment of this paragraph was not to introduce a resource-intensive assessment for every species country combination. We fully recognize the practical constraints and understand that also for capacity reasons, it's also not possible to prepare detailed country-specific consultant reviews in all these cases anyway. And this amendment was proposed because during the previous reviews that we had under this resolution, an important part of the committee's discussions, in some cases focused on the potential impacts of wild augmentation of the breeding stock on the wild populations. And in those cases, information on the conservation status and threat affecting the source populations proved highly relevant to the committee's deliberations. And so the intention was therefore to ensure that where appropriate, the review would also consider the conservation status and threats in the country or countries from where the founder stock has been obtained or continues to be obtained. And this is then in particular relevant if there is an ongoing and significant link still between captive production and wild population. For instance, where the breeding operations continue to augment breeding stock, and also using source code F or R. And so we largely agree with the interpretation of the Secretariat. It was not to have a detailed assessment, but rather a concise summary of readily available information that provide useful context that could include data from the IUCN Red List, from national red lists, and other known threats, and readily available information. And secondly, I would also like to comment briefly on recommendation E concerning criterion 7. So I fully agree that the difficulty to breed is highly relevant when assessing the plausibility of captive breeding claims, but practical experience suggests that it's probably the most difficult criterion to apply in a consistent and standardized way across all these taxa. And while readily available reference data exists for some reptile taxa, for instance, and maybe also for other groups, we are not aware of any comparable data sets covering all the taxa. And so also from personal experience, I know how resource intensive it is to compile and regularly update such information. And it would be, I think, not practical and proportionate for the consultant to undertake species by species literature reviews, expert consultation for hundreds or thousands of species during this initial screening. And instead, of course, parties and experts should be encouraged to make existing data sets and information available in a way that allows the information to be used systematically. At this point, I would also like to mention that there's the Songbirds in Trade database and the Hornbills in Trade database, where I can provide the links later in writing. And sorry for the long intervention, but I would also like to raise that another challenge is that the difficulty to breed is not a static characteristic. It depends on husbandry techniques, accumulated experience, and available expertise, which can evolve over time. And so any standardized assessment therefore inevitably simplifies a very complex issue. And so there's also the risk of a taxonomic bias, because detailed information is available for some groups, but the lack of information does not mean that those species are bred very easily. And so I'm wondering whether this information might actually be better used as a supporting contextual information in those output tables rather than a standalone screening criterion. But on the other hand, I also recognize that this could mean that some potentially relevant cases wouldn't have been flagged. So I think this really deserves some further discussion and also reconsideration maybe after the new selection process. And so therefore I'm wondering if there would be merit in also continuing a methodological discussion during the planned technical workshop, which is proposed under document 24, on specimens not of wild source, where resolution conf 17.7 will be also reviewed more broader, and maybe there's more room for having this complex and detailed discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Euro. It's very good information for this. I will invite others members. Nomenclators, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I add my congratulations for your election, as well as my thanks to Switzerland, the Secretariat, and everybody who makes this meeting a success. I just wanted to make a small addition to my European colleagues' very valuable contribution, and that is that captive breeding difficulty also depends very much on the geographical location and therefore the ability of enclosures to house these animals. What is very difficult to breed in small confined circumstances in a temperate climate may be extremely easy to breed in a wide enclosure in natural habitat. The climatic and light periodicity aspects that affect breeding for many species are much variable between different concerns. So this is again another factor to consider in this upcoming workshop. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, nomenclators. It's really also very good considerations. Now, I'm inviting the observer parties. Okay, Colombia.
Gracias, señor presidente. Teniendo en cuenta que es la primera vez que Colombia toma la palabra, queremos agradecer a la Secretaría y a Suiza por las gestiones para llevar a cabo el Comité de Fauna, y a Mir felicitarlo por su elección y desearle lo mejor en esta nueva tarea. Como representante regional alterna para la región de Centro, Suramérica y el Caribe, ofrecer mi apoyo en los diferentes temas que se abordan en las sesiones del Comité de Fauna. Señor presidente, considerando las limitantes de atender a diferentes grupos de trabajo, pese a su orientación inicial de no hacer referencia a casos particulares, voy a permitirme mencionar el caso particular de Colombia. De acuerdo con los datos de exportación de los informes anuales entre 2020 a 2024 de Colombia, faga histriónica, que está incluida en la tabla 6 del anexo 1, no cumple con el criterio de aumento significativo. Las exportaciones disminuyeron significativamente en los años evaluados. Es posible que estas cifras incluyan exportaciones de especímenes con fines de investigación científica no comercial, que en ningún caso corresponden a las exportaciones de animales vivos, sino a tejidos y otros especímenes. Agradecemos y analicen las cifras de países reexportadores que pueden estar generando doble contabilidad con especímenes vivos del país de origen de Colombia. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Colombia. We know that one. And I give the floor to the Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chair. As we are speaking for the first time, we also wish to thank the government of Switzerland for the excellent hosting of this meeting, and also thank the Secretariat for the excellent organization of this meeting so far. And congratulations, Chair, for your appointment. Now coming to this particular document, quickly, Chair, with the reference to the interpretation of paragraph 2H of the resolution 17.7, we totally agree with the interpretation as suggested by the Secretariat. I won't go into the details. in refining the methodology for the initial analysis under paragraph 2A of Resolution 17.7, Rev COP 20, we need to take into account consideration of the ever-increasing workload of the Secretariat, which may impede the implementation of the resolution. The use or selection of specialist groups needs to consider regional balance and the views of parties, particularly the ones practicing commercial trade. And we also wish to join the in-session group, which you promised to form at the end of the discussion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Now I give the floor to the UAE.
Thank you, Chair. As we take the floor for the first time, we thank the government of Switzerland for their hospitality and congratulate you, Chair, on your appointment. The UAE thanks the Secretariat and UNEP WCMC for a rigorous and transparent analysis. We have reviewed the results in full, and we appear as a country of export for a small number of combinations. We note for the record and for the committee's efficiency that according to the analysis, none of these combinations met the criteria relating to reporting inconsistencies, incorrect application of source codes, or legal acquisition of founder stock. None is subject to quota or to any recommendation to suspend trade. For the two most substantial of these, the Asian Hubara and the Arabian Oryx, the analysis identified the UAE as a range state. Both are long-established national conservation breeding program with a well-documented history, undertaken in support of the recovery of these species. We would be glad to provide the Secretariat with information on these programs, including their contribution to introduction at any time. On that basis, we consider that these combinations do not warrant further review, and we would encourage the committee to focus its attention where the analysis points to genuine conservation concerns. The UAE reaffirms its full commitment to the effective implementation of Resolution Conference 17.7 and to continued cooperation with the Secretariat and this committee, and express our interest to join the intersessional working group. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, A. Any observer parties will take floor? Okay, now I give the floor to the observer organizations. WCS.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We congratulate you for the steering of this committee. The Wildlife Conservation Society urged the Animal Committee to recommend to the Standing Committee, considering how the link of the information provided by parties on threatened endemic species to the analysis undertaken by the WCMC. We are concerned to see a threshold of 1,000 units to trigger concerns. We consider that threshold to be arbitrary and not based on science. Biologically, the threshold could be far low for some species and far too high for others. We note that the resolution COMP 17.7 Rev COP 20 does not include a threshold to trigger concerns. We question where the 1,000 cutoff came from. From some threatened endemic species, important information could be low with such a high threshold. We request that any threshold used, if there is to be one, should be taxon specific. WCS also supports convening the in-session working group and offers to join. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, WCS. Center for Biology Diversity.
Thank you, Chair. This intervention is on behalf of 9 observer organizations. We thank the Secretariat, UNEP WCMC, and Switzerland for these documents, as they raise important issues for CITES to grapple with. One such issue is the Secretariat's request for guidance on obtaining expert advice on identifying species that are difficult to breed. We suggest creation of an intersessional working group to identify a process for discerning which species qualify as difficult to breed in captivity. Additionally, we urge this committee and the working group tomorrow to consider, in exceptional circumstances, the inclusion of several species from certain countries with multiple species of concern when it is warranted. Nothing expressly limits this review process to 1 or 2 species per country, and we very much hope this committee will agree. We appreciate the robust discussions here today and look forward to further deliberations tomorrow. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any others that will take the floor? Okay. Thank you for your patience. I conclude that the AC agree with the Secretariat interpretation of the amendment to paragraph 2H of the resolution COP 17.7 RAF COP 20 as outlined in paragraph 7 as document AC 34.14.2 and establishment of institutional working group with the following mandate. A. Taking into account the analysis presented in annex to the document AC 34.14.2. Little I. Select a limited number of species country combination in review. Prepare a brief explanation on the criteria used to justify the selection, and draft general or specific question for the countries selected for review. B. Determine and prioritize for which species a request should be made for the commissioning of the short review of the breeding biology, captive husbandry, as well as on the conservation status of threats to the species in the respective countries of origin of the founder stock, to facilitate an assessment of any impact, if relevant, of removal of founder stock from the wild. C. Identify any urgent enforcement matter which need the attention to of the Secretariat, the country concerned, and or the Standing Committee. And D, provide advice on how to refine the methodology for the initial analysis under paragraph 2A of the resolution COP 17.7, Ref COP 20, so the criterion 7 can be more comprehensively applied to the retain wider range of the taxa as outlined in paragraph 10 document AC 34 doc 14.2. That's the mandate of the in-sessional working group of the captive breedings. So. Okay, I see Europe asking for the floor. Please, Europe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I just have a suggestion for a small amendment of this mandate, because we also note that when doing systematic assessment, this is always a trade-off on where to putting the thresholds and to keep the output manageable. And to a bit compensate for the fact that maybe some species country combinations then will not be flagged in the Annex 2 output, but could be of concern. I would like to raise that there's also an information document that has submitted. It's information document 2, which contains the full output. And so we would propose then under little a that the working group may take into account, of course, the output in Annex 2, but also in some exceptional circumstances, species country combinations that were flagged in InfDoc 2 for consideration when selecting new species country combination for the review. Thank you.
Thank you, Europe. So in little a, we just add the taking into account the analysis presented in Annex to the document AC 34, Doc 14.2, and any additional information. Is it okay? That can be added there. Okay. A little revision, yeah. Again, I read little a, taking into account the analysis presented in Annex to the document AC 34, Doc 14.2, and any additional information in informations document fileable. In InfoDoc 2, yeah, we will add that one.
chair it.
Okay. Move forward to I would like to invite the representative for Europeans and Africa to chair the working group. Is it?
I see Asia and Mexico are calling for the floor.
Okay, Asia, please.
Sorry, thank you, Chair, for the late intervention. I think from our review, or from our view, I think we don't want to add the information document as the basis for the discussion because for parties to prepare for this item, we use the annex of this document for the preparation. So right now we change it to the information document. It will add too much pressure for the parties. So from our region, I think we prefer the mandate in the document, but not include the information document. Thank you so much.
I feel there is two views here among the members. So I would like to invite others perspective views from others members. Oceania, please.
Thank you, Chair. As this is the first time Oceania is taking the floor, I'd like to thank the Secretariat for the preparations of this meeting and the Government of Switzerland for hosting. I would also like to congratulate the Chair on his appointment. In regard to the extra additions into the recommendation 13(a), Oceania would like to support the additional information contained.
Okay, the Oceania support refers to the information document available. Asia oppose. Any other members will take floor on that? Nomenclature specialist, please.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is that the discussions on this topic in the working group will be focused on the annex, but supplementary information from an info document or any other information should not be ruled out. But it is primarily focused on the annex, but every relevant information is welcome to make a better conclusion. So I would not exclude a reference to other information. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomenclature Specialist Group. Central, South America and Caribbean.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, primero felicitar al Chair nuevamente, pues, y agradecer a Suiza. De verdad que estamos para apoyarles. Y bueno, nosotros consideramos que sí debería incluirse, apoyamos lo que dice Oceanía y el especialista en taxonomía. Realmente lo que nos ayuda en estos documentos es a tomar una decisión más informada y más técnica en cuanto a el análisis que tenemos que hacer durante el grupo de trabajo. Gracias.
Thank you. Africa.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je pense que c'est nécessaire d'avoir toutes les informations pour prendre les bonnes décisions et que inclure le document d'information ne serait pas mauvais. Je pense que je suis du même avis que les spécialistes de la nomenclature et les délégués européens. Merci.
Thank you, Africa. So, any other members? Okay, thank you. And then I will move to the observer parties. Mexico, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We can go along with the suggestion for going to work on INFDoc because it's a document provided by the Secretariat. but only to that document and only if there is a particular need while reviewing the combinations species country only. So we don't want to leave it that open because we don't know the origin of other sources of information that we should check before. So we trust in the document presented by the Secretariat and should be the only reference so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mexico. I will come back to Asia whether this will be a good bridge to move forward with that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think, we agree with the Mexico's proposal, to focus on the information document too, as necessary, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Asia. I think that's good consensus on that. Okay. Okay, I give the floor to the South Africa.
Thank you, Chair. We would just like to confirm whether this additional information document could result in additional species, country combinations being put into the review, other than those in the main annex. Just if we could confirm that, please.
Thank you for the participation. There's some discussion, but I would like to hear from the WCMC, UNEP WCMC, to give any views regarding this. Yeah, asking regarding differences between annex and info doc.
And congratulations to you on your appointment to this as chair of this committee. Yes, I think we have provided information document 2 that provides the full details of all trade data for the sources relevant to the captive breeding review. So that is available to all parties to interrogate alongside the analysis that we have provided, which of the species that meet the criteria defined in the resolution. I would just say that there have been some other cases that have been included in the review in the previous iterations that haven't necessarily met the selection criteria. I think some were referred from the RST process and so on. So it wouldn't make it wouldn't be a precedent, if you like, by not including a species that isn't in the selection criteria, if that is helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for the patience. Before I move forward, but I just want to clarify and give the information to the South Africa that yes, it can be included. So the question is whether there can be another species that can be included. But yeah, it's potential can be included in that. And before I come back to the South Africa, I would like to invite first China.
Thank you, Chair. China echo Mexico and South Africa, and thanks to the efforts made by WCMC. But with limited resource and ever-expanding workloads, we should concentrate on what will affect the conservation most, and concentrate on what has already been written in the agenda document rather than the information document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. Mexico, then South Africa. Mexico, please.
Gracias, señor presidente, y gracias a Sudáfrica por la pregunta. Consideramos que el documento informativo 2 debe de ser un apoyo para hacer alguna aclaración en cuanto a la información de detalle. El anexo que ya tenemos en este tema de agenda ya hizo un examen exhaustivo de muchas especies, por lo que no consideramos que el documento informativo sea una fuente de proponer nuevas especies. Sería como descalificar el trabajo que ya se hizo para preparar los anexos. Si hubiese alguna duda, podemos ir al documento informativo para ver en detalle cualquier duda que pueda surgir. Esa es una referencia solo en caso necesario. Esa sería nuestra preferencia. Gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. And then South Africa, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Mexico and China have said exactly what we are thinking as well, and we would not support any additional species included from that information document. Otherwise, why undertake the analysis? The resolution has the specific criteria that are followed. The output is in Annex 2, and that is the basis for the working group discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, South Africa. Hearing from the viewers, I come back to the... Oh, okay, so UK, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just went back to the resolution to see if there was any sort of helpful advice there, and I think if you look at so stage 1, paragraph B, it does say that the Secretariat can make available any other relevant information with respects to concerns about captive production. I mean, our feeling is that this information is there to inform the decision-making process and can be called upon. I mean, I'm not sure how the working group chair is going to address this in the working group, but they will probably use the WCMC analysis initially. But I see no reason why information provided in the InfDoc could not then be helped to inform decisions being taken by the working group. And I don't think the resolution excludes that. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. German, please.
Thank you, Chair. As this is the first time that Germany takes the floor, we would like to congratulate you as the new chair of the Animals Committee, and we would also like to thank the Swiss government and the Secretariat for hosting and organizing the meeting, and we wish everyone a successful meeting week. So regarding this agenda item, we would also support the intervention just made by UK, that we think that the resolution, as explained, is not necessarily ruling out that further information, as provided also by the Secretariat, as InfDoc, can be actually taken into account in the selection process. So therefore we would also like to stay with the formulation as suggested by the European region and include this InfDoc as basis for selection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the patience. Just to make a pitch on these two views, I heard from many views from members as well as the parties, the concern regarding the annex and the information document. We still agree that annex is the main document that we have to reference on that, because it has been for a long process to resolve that one, and we don't want to add more additional. However, if there is information that available, we can use as a reference. So by that proposal, I will ask the members whether it can be agree with this. Asia, please.
Thank you so much, Chair. I think we agree with your proposal to move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asia. New members take floor. Now I give the parties Ireland, please.
Thank you, Chair. And as this is the first time we are taking the floor, we extend our greeting of Díomh Galéir in our own language, and we congratulate you on your election as Chair, and we thank the Secretariat and Switzerland for facilitating the organisation of this meeting. Briefly, we agree with this suggested approach. The document was prepared for a reason, the information document, and the United Kingdom cited the relevant reference in the resolution, so we agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Airline. Okay, I think we have the consensus that we use the annex as the main document to discuss, but we open the information document can use for the reference. Okay? Okay, by that then I would like to we will establish the in-sessional working group for the captive breedings. I will invite the representative from Europeans for chairing this working group. Mona, okay. And Mr. Chibrils, representative for the Africa for co-chair. this working group. Is it okay? All right, okay. So, okay. Then we established the in-sessional working group of the captive breedings. I would like to invite the parties who join to the in-sessional working group for the captive breedings. Please put your bottom, then after I read and just put off the members first. European. Okay, put off the bottom. Asia. Africa. Nomenclature Specialist Group. Oh, Central, South America, and Caribbean. Okay, the members. Then the parties. Mexico, Uganda, Russian Federation, USA, UAE, South America, UAE, United Arab Emirates. Then South Africa, Belgium, Switzerland, Ireland, Brazil, Australia, Canada, Japan, Lithuania, China, Germany, yeah, okay, Zimbabwe, Indonesia, Tanzania, AU, UK, Senegal, Peru, Namibia, Chechnya, Netherlands, Spain, Austria, Finland, Laos PDR, Qatar, Italy, Togo, Ghana, Armenia, Thailand, and Malaysia, Israel. Togo, I think I have included, so push the bottom. Yeah. Okay. You got it already?
Yeah.
The members?
Did you get?
Okay, I invite observer organizations who will join to the in-sessional working group of captive breedings. Please. White ranching, South Africa. EASA. SSN. Pan-Africa Sanctuary. Pro-Wildlife. ASA. FAO. Parrot breeding of South Africa. Center Biodiversity, right? Biological Diversity, yes. WCS, OFI, European Pet Organization, German Herpetology, BNA Germany, SA Taxi and Tan, IWMC, UNEP WCMC, Born Free Foundation, US Reptile Keeper, WWF, IUCN, Humane World of Animals, Animal Welfare Institute, Shuko, South Africa, Animal Interest, Safari Club Foundation, Cheetah Fund, Traffic, UNODC, South African Predation Association, Sustainable User Network, Blood Lions, Costa Rica, so we move to the parties. International Fur Federation, Pan-Africa Sanctuary already included. Please push the button. South Africa Predation Associations. Sea Cucumber Association. South Africa Predator Associations already included. Please push the button. Okay, we have more parties than members and organizations. So the in-sessional working group of the captive breeding will meet tomorrow at 9 in this room. Okay, again I repeat, the in-sessional working group of the captive breedings will be here, this room, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you. Thank you. Then we move to next agenda. Agenda 13, review of significant trade. SC 34 agenda item 13.1, overview of the review significant trade. I invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. So, document AC 34, Doc 13.1 updates the Animals Committee on the status of the review of significant trade process. The document highlights those recommendations that were made at the 33rd meeting of the Animals Committee, the 78th meeting of the Standing Committee, and the 79th meeting of the Standing Committee to remove species country combinations from the review and any conditions attached, such as quotas, as well as any recommendations to suspend trade that were agreed by the Standing Committee. It also highlights several species that were removed from the review following the adoption of proposals to transfer them from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 at COP20. So this applies to Conyxis homiana, Carcharinus longimanus, and Mobulidae spp. Annex 1 to the present document provides an updated overview of all fauna cases, so species country combinations, since the 33rd meeting of the Animals Committee, with an indication of their current status under the review process, and the reference documents that provided detailed information for the cases concerned. Annex 2 presents a summary table of all fauna range state species combinations currently subject to review under the review significant trade, including those that are subject to a recommendation to suspend trade under RST or for which the review process is currently ongoing. The Secretariat would like to make an editorial change to the table in Annex 2 of the document, which should also include Sverna Luini from Kenya and Sri Lanka as ongoing cases. So the Animals Committee is invited to note document AC 34, Doc 13.1, with the proposed amendments to the table in Annex 2 just explained. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. I invite members to give the floor. The document 13.1. Silent is okay, silent is agreement.
Nomenclature Specialist Group.
Thank you, Chair. I commend the Secretariat for its diligent work tracking all the developments in these cases and the links to the documentation reporting these developments. Very helpful. In the interest of accuracy, I would like to point out that in the annex, table 7, 3 species are reported as having been transferred from Appendix 1 to Appendix 1 at COP20 and therefore removed from the review. That should, of course, have been Appendix 2 to Appendix 1, and this can be corrected for the summary record. Concerns the tortoise Kinixis homiana, the shark Acarhinus longimanus, and the ray genus Mobla, as the Secretary just pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you, nomenclators. Okay, I give the floor to the observer parties. Sénégal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Tout en remerciant le secrétariat pour la préparation du document, le Sénégal voudrait ici rappeler que l'objectif de l'étude de commerce important est de s'assurer que le commerce des espèces inscrites à l'annexe 2 est durable et est pleinement conforme aux dispositions de l'article 5 de la Convention. Dans ce contexte, le Sénégal souhaite attirer l'attention du comité sur plusieurs combinaisons concernant des espèces de requins et de raies fortement menacées et faisant l'objet de niveaux de commerce préoccupants. Premièrement, nous voudrons encourager la sélection de Caricaribus falciformis pour le Costa Rica et le Sri Lanka. Deuxièmement,
I'm sorry, Senegal. For detail, that one will be in the working group for the new species, the selection combinations. So we are now in the overview of the ongoing process that in the review significant trade.
Ok, si tel est le cas, nous maintenons notre premier commentaire qui consiste à dire que l'étude de commerce est importante pour la mise en œuvre des décisions de la CITES parce que nous constatons parfois qu'il y a beaucoup d'inscriptions et que dans la mise en œuvre, ces études ne sont pas menées pour vraiment faire un bon niveau. Merci. Je retire mon commentaire pour les autres en attendant le deuxième point. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. Then I invite Ghana.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chair. First, permit me to join the chorus of praise to the Secretariat and the government of Switzerland for their effort in organizing this meeting. And congratulations, Chair, on your appointment. We thank the Secretariat for preparing the document AC 3413.1. Ghana welcomes the Secretariat assessment of the NDF and other supporting documents submitted in respect of the 4 species under the review of significant trade process, and appreciates its recognition of the tremendous progress made by Ghana. Regarding Camellia gracilis, we are grateful for the Secretariat's conclusion that Ghana has fully implemented.
I'm sorry, Ghana, I interrupt you again. That's in the document 13.2. We are now still in the 13.1, so overview of the refugee country. I'm sorry if you might need this. But you can then make the intervention in the next document after this. Yes, I please just be focused on the document 30.1, which is overview of the review significant trade. We are not going yet to the document 13.2. Okay, next I give the floor to the Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to align myself with the previous speaker in commending your election and Swiss and the Secretariat for making this meeting a success. Tanzania also take note of the document AC 34.13.1 and commended the Secretariat for preparing this document. But also we wish to bring to the attention of the committee that Tanzania has a moratorium on trade in live animals since 2016. So we have one species which has been suspended from the trade, but we wish to bring to the attention of the committee that we are not doing trade, we have a moratorium, and should Tanzania wishes to open the trade, we will continue doing the NDA for this species. So just wanted the Secretariat and the committee to note that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanzania. I give the floor to Togo.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais féliciter le secrétariat et l'ensemble des acteurs qui ont contribué à l'élaboration de ce document 13.1. Nous reconnaissons dans la plupart des recommandations et des décisions qui ont été prises dans le cadre de ce document. Nous avons quelques détails, mais nous les apporterons en comité restreint. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Okay, I give the floor to observer organizations. Still, we are in the 13.1. No requests from the observer organizations. Thank you. Concerning agenda item 13.1, I conclude the Animal Committee note document AC 34.13.1, noting the amendment to the table in Annex 2 outlined by the Secretariat and error highlighted by nomenclature specialists. Seeing no objection, it is agreed and this agenda item is closed. Now we are in the agenda 13.2. Case selected for reviews following COP 16 to COP 19. I invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. This document by the Secretariat reports on 8 cases where actions were taken by parties to implement recommendations made by the animals and the standing committees. Since the Secretariat last reported on implementation and recommended action to the Standing Committee at its 79th meeting in document SC79, Doc 7.1. The fauna species country combinations reviewed in document AC34, Doc 13.2, are anguilla from Algeria, Camellia gracilis and Camellia senegalensis, Pandinus imperator, and Python regis from Ghana, Python regis from Togo, and 2 species of hammerhead sharks, Sphyrna lewini and Sphyrna mocaran from Mexico. The document presents the Secretariat's determination of implementation and draft recommendations based on new information provided by the parties concerned, which can be found in Annex 2 in the language as received. The committee should note that the Secretariat will follow up with those parties that did not provide updates for this meeting to ensure that they can be discussed at the meeting of the Standing Committee in November. The Secretariat can confirm that it has received an update on the implementation of the recommendations concerning Tridacna SPP from the Solomon Islands, as was requested, but the notification to the parties detailing the total number of stockpiled shells and the period over which the export will take place has yet to be finalised. The Secretariat hopes to publication this notification shortly and will provide an update at the Standing Committee in November. So concerning this document, in accordance with paragraph 1K of Resolution Conf 12.8, Rev Cop 18, the Animals Committee is invited to consider the recommendations of the Secretariat as set out in paragraph 9, which are based on the summary tables in Annex 1. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I now propose to go through each case separately, using the recommendation in paragraph 9 as a starting point and seek any comments. First, I give the floor to the members. Apologize for not clear, but I will provide more clear. So the first case for concerning Anguilla, Algeria. I need common views from the Animal Committee. Members? No comment from members? Then I invite no comment, no agree, so it's mean agreement, silent is agreement for the document. Okay, thank you. Just to make sure, the Algeria is here? Algeria not present. Okay, move to the next. Concerning Camilo Gracilis from Ghana. I would invite the committee comment. European.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So first of all, also thanks again to the Secretariat for preparing the document. And I broadly support the recommendations by the Secretariat also on this case, and I would like to commend Ghana for the substantial work undertaken, including literature review, interview surveys, habitat modeling, and extensive field surveys, which has resulted in a transparent and well-documented basis for the NDF and the proposed export quota. And while the population estimate inevitably contains some uncertainty, Ghana has clearly acknowledged this and incorporated several precautionary assumptions into its calculations, so that the proposed export quota represents only around 0.1% of the estimated national population, which appears highly precautionary. And this is, in my view, exactly the type of outcome an RST process is intended to achieve. So this is really kind of best practice. But I do, however, have one observation regarding the proposed source codes. So the NDF and the quota accounts for wild offtake, while the document does not provide details on ranching operations or explain the basis for allocating part of the quota for source code R and the other for W. And from an implementation perspective, distinguishing ranch from wild specimen in trade is extremely challenging. And in our region, as importers, we generally observe that specimens, camellia specimens imported from Ghana are around 8 centimeter in length, whereas hatchlings are about 2 to 3 centimeters, suggesting that at least large part of the specimens would be more consistent with a wild origin than with ranching. And so for these reasons, I would support removing the species from the RST, but recommending that the export quota that is currently used only refers to source code W for the time being, as this is clearly backed up by the NDF, and not to source code R. And this would provide a more clear and more practical basis for implementation. But I also understand that Ghana generally intends to promote and also to incentivize the practice to ranch or to even breed species over wild collection as a more sustainable method in the long term. And so should Ghana wish to establish a quota for source code R or maybe even F or C, we believe this should be supported by further information on the respective management system ahead of the next standing committee meeting, which was also similar to the proposal by the Secretariat on Camellia senegalensis. And finally, I would like to encourage Ghana to continue implementing this program and to repeat surveys at regular intervals to verify that the assumptions underlying the current NDF remain true, and to adapt management if necessary in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, European. Members Africa.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je soutiens un peu les commentaires positifs de l'Union européenne sur le cas du Ghana. Les travaux réalisés par ce pays montrent une amélioration notable de la base scientifique des décisions de gestion, des ASNP robustes, des quotas de conservateurs et un dispositif de suivi renforcé. Donc il y a quelques lacunes qui ont été identifiées dans la documentation des activités de ranching et qui ne remettent pas en cause les progrès substantiels accomplis par le Ghana. Donc nous recommandons au comité de suivre les recommandations du secrétariat pour ce travail extraordinaire qui a été réalisé par le Ghana. Merci.
Thank you. Africa? Any members who take floor? Okay, I will invite next parties. Ghana first to give the floor. Please, Ghana.
Thank you, Chair. I think I have to redo my initial submission because of the positive comments I have received from the committee members. So let me sincerely thank the committee members and the Secretariat for the good work done and for their confidence in our effort and for recommending the removal of Ghana from the review of significant trade process. We view this not as an end of a process, but as a reaffirmation of our commitment to continuous improvement, transparency, and ensuring that international trade in all the species is legal, sustainable, traceable, and contributes to the long-term conservation of the species. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ghana. And I invite Togo. Togo, please.
D'accord. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais ici remercier les commentaires qui ont été faits à propos du caméléon gracilis du Ghana. Et je suis très satisfait des commentaires qui ont été faits et du retrait de cette espèce du Ghana. Et je reconnais le travail que l'organe de gestion et l'autorité scientifique CITES du Ghana entreprend pour pouvoir se mettre en conformité avec les recommandations du secrétariat et du comité des animaux. Et j'encourage le Ghana à continuer à faire ce même travail pour les autres espèces et surtout pour rendre l'exploitation des populations de ces espèces d'une manière durable. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Togo, Mexico.
Gracias.
Señor presidente, me refiero a las especies de Esfirna lewini y mocarrán. México agradece a la Secretaría su reporte.
I'm sorry, Mexico, we are still in the Camello gracilis.
Sorry?
We are still in the Camello gracilis.
Oh, sorry.
Then we will go next to there. Okay, Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chair. We'll be quick. We just want to congratulate Ghana for the amazing comprehensive work that they have done, and also for addressing a number of issues pertaining to the review of significant trade. And what is more encouraging is also the commitment already expressed by Ghana to continue this work and not seeing it as the end of the level of efforts that they were putting. Therefore, we align ourselves with the submission which has already been made by our committee representative, Senegal, and we support the recommendation as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. UK. UK, can you please again?
Apologies. Thank you, Chair. We would like to share congratulating Ghana on the progress they've made in addressing the concerns raised under the review of significant trade process. And we welcome the non-detriment finding report they've provided. Just going back to the point raised by the European regional representative, I think currently the recommendation is for the quota for source W to apply to source W and R. And having reviewed the information in the NDF provided, it seems to us that that the species does not appear to be being ranched in great numbers presently, and no details have been provided on the ranching of this particular species. So I think our feeling was also that maybe the quota should be limited to source code W, perhaps with a 0 for R, and if, as we've heard, ranching is an intention for this species in the future, then once that's been established, they can provide more details around that, and the quota could be amended. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. I give to Gambia.
Thank you, Chair. The Gambia thanks Ghana for its statement and appreciates the Secretariat's assessment of the document 13.1. We welcome Ghana's progress in implementing the recommendations arising from the review of significant trade, including its commitment to publish approved export quotas. In light of this progress and the Secretariat's conclusions, the Gambia supports lifting the relevant trade suspension recommendations where applicable and closing the review of significant trade for the species concerned. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gambia. Next, Senegal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Sénégal prend la parole pour appuyer les commentaires positifs qui vont dans les remerciements et félicitations adressés au Ghana. Mais je tiens à préciser que le quota est volontaire pour le pays et participe d'une bonne gestion durable des ressources. Toutefois, je tiens à attirer l'attention du Ghana de veiller au respect scrupuleux du quota, sinon on retombe dans le premier cas. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. Okay, thank you. I would like to invite the members to the matters that we are discussing in the Ghana cases for Camellia senegalensis, I'm sorry. Oh, European, please.
So just to confirm, are we still on the gracilis? Okay. So maybe also just to be clear that the sort of concern raised before was really not about the sustainability of the proposed harvest and not on the methodology of the NDF, but it was more about the compliance with CITES source code definitions. And I'm very pleased to hear that Ghana is committed to also work on that and to address these questions. And I would also stand ready to provide further advice if this could be helpful in future approaches. But however, at this stage, I would not feel comfortable supporting a quota for a source code where the condition for the source code have not been demonstrated. And pending this clarification, I would encourage Ghana to consider managing the entire scientifically justified quota under source code W, rather than splitting it between W and R. And with that, I would be ready to have the combination released from the review. And once requirements for source code R can be demonstrated in practice, of course, a quota could be set in the future. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, European. It's quite clear. So I would like to invite Ghana directly. Please, Ghana.
Thank you, Chair. I feel that we can accept the suggestion by the European Union, and I think UK also expressed similar concerns, and which we can readily accept and apply the set quota to source code W. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that's very good agreement and consensus. Okay, I would read carefully. Concerning Camellia gracilis Ghana, the Animal Committee invited to little e recommend that Standing Committee withdraw the recommendation to suspend trade in Camellia gracilis from Ghana, remove Camellia gracilis Ghana from the review significant trade, subject to the publication of the annual export quota 3,798 specimens of wild source code and zero for ranch source code. To remind Ghana that any increase of the quotas should be communicated to the chair of the Animal Committee and Secretariat for their agreement in advance of any trade taking place, with non-determined findings, including a justification of how the chain is conservative based on estimates of sustainable uptake that make use of best available scientific information. So we will provide the written clearly. Is it okay, Ghana? With this? Okay, thank you.
Here. Oh, he is here. Yeah, he's waiting.
I would like to invite the chair of the standing committee to give some views regarding this process for the Camellia gracilis. Okay, thank you. We will get later after the chair is here. Okay, then we go the concerning Camellia senegalensis from Ghana. Any views from the members? We are in Camellia senegalensis. European?
Thank you, Chair. So basically we support the recommendations from the Secretariat. So it's a bit of the same story. The same assessment methodology was applied, the same precautionary approach has been applied, so I won't repeat those points. But I would like to emphasize that also here the proposed export quota is highly precautionary, representing only 0.1% of the estimated national population. But regarding the ranching, I would agree with the Secretariat that further information would be needed to understand the current practices. But in line with the previous intervention on gracilis, and if Ghana considers this acceptable, one alternative or possible way forward could also here to remove the species already now on the basis that there will be only a quota for W, but a zero quota for R. So maybe this could be a pragmatic solution while allowing Ghana to continue export based on the NDF under source code W. But of course, if Ghana wishes to maintain the quota for R, we would just support, or I would just support the Secretariat's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoro. Any other members will give views? Okay, Africa, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Parce que nous souscrivons aux commentaires de l'Union européenne pour ne pas reprendre les mêmes discussions, puisque c'est les mêmes méthodes qui ont été utilisées pour les deux espèces et qui ont abouti aux mêmes résultats, plus ou moins. Et donc nous souscrivons aux commentaires de l'Union européenne et aux recommandations du secrétariat. Merci.
You mean European members' comment? Right? Yeah. No member will take the floor. Okay, next I give the floor to the observer parties. Okay, Ghana, please.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, I appreciate the concerns raised by the European Union, and for me, Ghana can easily accept the suggestions put forward by the European Union and apply the set quota to only source code W. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ghana. Zimbabwe, please.
Thank you so much. We also want to commend Ghana for the excellent job done so far, and I agree with the recommendation in paragraph 9C, that is to withdraw the recommendation to suspend trade in C. senegalensis from Ghana, of course, subject to conditions specified in paragraph 9C as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Togo.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense que le travail qui a été fait par le Ghana en ce qui concerne Caméléon sénégalensis me paraît conforme sur la base des statuts de l'écologie, de la biologie de l'espèce. Le quota qui est proposé par le Ghana répond à la fois aux conditions écologiques et aux habitats qui sont pour cette espèce au Ghana. Je pense que ce quota est scientifiquement justifiable. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Togo. Africa, you will take.
C'est juste pour rectifier un peu. Je pense que j'ai eu un lapsus en parlant de l'Union européenne à la place de l'Europe, mais je m'en excuse. Là, c'est vraiment, je voulais parler du délégué européen.
Thank you. Okay. Concerning Cameleo senegalensis from Ghana, the Animal Committee is invited to recommend that the Standing Committee withdraw the recommendation to suspend the trade in Cameleo senegalensis from Ghana, remove Cameleo senegalensis Ghana from the review significant trade, subject to the publication of the annual export quota 4,142 specimens of wild source and 0 for ranch source code. Remain Ghana that any increase in the quota should be communicated to the chair of the Animal Committee and the Secretariat for their agreement in advance of any trade taking place, with non-determined findings, including a justification of how the change is conservative, based on estimates of sustainable offtake that make use the best available scientific information. Is it okay? Okay, next. Now we are in Pandinus Imperator, Ghana. Any comment from the members regarding Pandinus Imperator? Okay, I just remind that in Pandinus Imperator of Ghana, we have a little bit similar cases about source code W and R. So I want to take attention from the members to give the comment on that. Again, committee, any views, especially for the recommendations I? If there is no comment, silent will be agreement. So silent is agreement definitely in this paragraph, that is in paragraph D.
Okay. Any other parties?
Okay, I give the floor to the parties. Any parties wish to give the comment? Ghana, please.
Thank you, Chair. So once again, we would like to thank the committee members and the parties for supporting the recommendation of the Secretariat regarding this species. Thank you.
Thank you, Ghana. Okay, no parties take floor. Again, I come back to members. Okay, there's no comment, silence agreement. So next we go to the Python Regis from Ghana. I invite the members to give the comment for Python Regis. European Union. I'm sorry, European.
Thank you, Chair. As for the chameleons, I would first like to comment Ghana for the considerable progress made, and the work undertaken has resulted in a much stronger scientific basis for management and quota setting. And I would generally support the objective of concluding the review. And the remaining comment do not relate to the overall sustainability of the proposed harvest, but again to the practical implementation of source code W and R. So the current population model calculates separate quotas for wild harvest and for ranching. However, it is not entirely clear whether the removals associated with one source code are explicitly reflected in the calculation of the other one. And since both ultimately rely on the same wild population, I would expect the combined impact of all removals from the wild to be reflected in one overall assessment. And in particular, the ranching quota calculation currently is based on the assumption that only eggs are collected. While previous reports from Ghana indicated that also gravid females sometimes were collected for ranching. And if this is a practice that can still occur, even occasionally, the removal of the breeding females would of course constitute an additional removal from the wild population. This does not necessarily mean that the current harvest is unsustainable, but it could be still also reflected in the NDF and in the calculations, and so in the biological assumption underpinning this NDF. And also details on the current ranching practices are not entirely clear, like including on how collection sites are distributed, are entire clutches being collected or only parts of the clutches, are some eggs left behind. And so we would therefore welcome if Ghana provides still further clarification on these matters ahead of the Standing Committee meeting. So really on the practical implementation of the ranching system. And if Ghana can demonstrate these elements, separate quotas for W and R could be appropriate, and the case could be released from the review. And as an alternative, Ghana may also wish to consider whether also here a single scientifically justified quota under source code W would provide a simpler way forward, as this approach could avoid practical implementation and enforcement challenges associated with verifying ranching practices and still ensuring that the total impact on the wild population is reflected in the NDF. For instance, also by adopting size limits to ensure trade really focuses only on offspring from the collection of eggs rather than a large proportion of adult specimens. But this is just meant as a suggestion, and it's fully up to Ghana to decide on how to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Any members will add information? Views? Okay, I would invite Ghana to respond and give some views on the European proposal.
Thank you, Chair, once again for this opportunity. I think the issues raised by EU are the same as the other species that we spoke about. And as they themselves admitted, the quotas that we set are less than 10% of the estimated sustainable offtakes. So for us, it's not a problem if we have to apply the set quota to only source code W, whilst we provide justification later on for trade in ranching as they are requesting. So we can align ourselves with the suggestions put forward by the EU. We can apply the set quotas to trade code W, and we provide justification in future for R. Thank you.
Where's the number? Where's the number? Ask the EU, they say it's sustainable.
Okay, I just want to make a clarification to Ghana. In the E concerning Pitod Regius, in Ghana to publish annual export quota for Python Regius 3,923 wild specimens, that's and 0 for ranch specimens, or 3,923 wild source code, wild specimens mean, and 38,819 range specimens. So which wait, I apologize. I just want to clarify from Ghana. If you agree that we use the single source code W or R, it means you will combine these two quota in one's total number, or any explanation on that? I would invite Ghana first. Ghana, please.
Thank you, Chair. As indicated, Chair, if even we combine the two figures, 38, 3,000, that's roughly 42,000. And per the computation that we did, the initial 3,900 constituted less than 10% That's about 0.1% of what we did. So for me, it will not pose any challenge to the specimen in the wild if we combine the two and trade under source code W. Thank you.
So again, I come back to Ghana. So the annual export quota for Python radius will 42,742 for wild source code and 0 for R source code. Is it correct? I come back to Ghana, please.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I come back to the members. Please, European.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe I would like to make one clarification. And so I think maybe we don't have to decide on a specific quota now, but on the way forward, because it will be still the standing committee to then decide if the case can be released from the review or not. And I see like different options. So Ghana could either still provide ahead of the standing committee more information on the ranching practices to support the proposed quota of 38-something thousand individuals for R. And only if these details on the ranching practice are provided to the standing committee, to the satisfaction of the standing committee, they could be released with this quota. As an alternative, Ghana could also consider to have only one source code, but of course this would then not be the sum of those two quotas, because the one concerns really only the collection of eggs and the other one the collection of adults. So there needs to be a new calculation of another more conservative overall quota, if this would be the way to go by Ghana.
Okay, thank you, European Union. Because time is really limited, I would like I would like to ask the interpreter for extra 5 minutes. Oh, thank you for the understanding. Okay, so regarding the Ghana and Python radius, I think it is better to go to the working group tomorrow with little discussion about, because I think it's just more close discussions, not really fundamental on that. So I think if you agree, European, that's good. Okay, I think we will move to Togo, please.
Oui, merci Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais intervenir par rapport au quota qui est en train d'être décidé pour le Ghana. Je pense que le travail que le Ghana a soumis pour examen est un bon travail.
Togo,
oui,
please.
je voudrais dire.
Togo, please. We will discuss the quota regarding the quota for Ghana in the working group tomorrow.
D'accord.
Yes, thank you. Okay, by finishing the Python radius, we will break for lunch. I think the time is already unfinished, but bearing in mind that we still have 3 cases, that need to be discussed, and actually these 3 cases supposed to be finished before lunch. So we still have 3 cases that need to be discussed, and I want everyone to give the precise comment and agreement to get the consensus for the next 3 cases. So yeah, then 3 cases will be discussed after lunch and before the next agenda. Thank you, everyone. So any information from Secretariat?
Thank you, Chair. I have more of a request from the interpreters. Just a reminder for all of you to speak slowly and also not to speak exactly in the microphone like I just did. It is quite unpleasant for them and for everybody. And also a reminder to send your speaking notes in advance. It's very helpful so that they can do the interpretation properly. You can send it at info@cites.org. It would be very helpful. Thank you.